Hi, welcome to the Beacon Hill Report with Senator Joan Lovely. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. Joan, welcome.
Thank you, Walt.
It's good to have you in the studio. Always nice to have you come around and talk with us.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
Well, Joan, before we start our conversation, maybe for those viewers who are not familiar, tell us what the 2nd Essex District, which is your area of responsibility, what cities and towns does that encompass? So
the districts are divided by population, so it's about 155,000 people, and the 2nd Essex District is made up of Beverly, Danvers, Peabody, Salem, and Topsfield, and they're all complete within those districts. Sometimes some senators have pieces of towns or cities, but those are the 5 total communities.
Those are the 5. Okay. Now let me ask you. Recently, the Beverly Citizen had an article about you and about how you had settled into your job and so forth, and your day-to-day activities. Tell us a little bit about that. What's a typical day for Joan Lovely?
A typical day. So, well, it's usually packed with meetings, and we have hearings in the State House. I sit on 7 committees. I chair the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Committee, and I'm vice chair of Veterans, but I also have 5 other committee assignments, in addition to a special committee that the Senate President just assigned me to for Section 35 civil commitments, which has to do with this opiate addiction, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit today. So that actually brings us to hearings all over the state. We've been out to Worcester, Fitchburg, Framingham. The committee is visiting Plymouth next week and a couple of other communities. We're doing a state-to-state, including the islands tour. So we also meet in session, formal session, once a week on Thursdays. And so that has me in the State House. Actually, I'm in the State House 3 to 4 days a week. Friday is a district day, so I try to devote that day to meeting with constituents and having meetings, within the 5 communities. It's a busy schedule. It's 7 days a week. Even Saturdays and Sundays, I'm out and doing the job.
Now, let's talk a little bit about something that's going on right now, and that's the state budgeting process. And we're right in the middle of that process. And can you tell us when the Senate will be debating the budget, and first tell us, what is the period, the state budget, for our viewers who are not familiar with that?
So the fiscal year runs June 30th or July 1st to the end of June 30th. So we are working on the state budget for the next fiscal year, FY15. And so the process starts in January when the governor releases his budget. In the 2nd year of the session, it's called House 2. We're in the year 2 of our session. Last year it was called House 1. And that actually goes over to the House, and the House is now debating the budget and including what they would like to see to how to kind of craft that budget. It will then be released by the House right around April vacation, and then it comes over to the Senate, where then we will add, subtract, and kind of put our mark on it. And then it will go to a joint conference committee between both House and Senate members, mostly made up of Ways and Means members from both the House and Senate. And then it goes back to the governor for his signature.
And by state law, does there have to be a budget in place before June 30th for the following year?
There does. And Massachusetts is very good at it. We usually do not have to pass, what they call a 1/12 budget if we go over our time. We're actually pretty timely, and we do pass a balanced budget.
Great. Now, recently you passed a transportation bond bill. Can you tell us how a bill like that works and how it affects each of the legislature's districts?
So the chair of the Transportation Committee on the Senate side is Senator Tom McGee from Lynn, and he with his committee put together this transportation bond bill that they then put before both the House and the Senate. We were asked as legislators to come up with our priorities, so we worked very closely with Representative Paracella to see what was important to Beverly, and actually through Jerry's office, what was important to him was reviewing the intersection, the traffic intersection near the North Beverly train station, in the Brimble Ave area, down Dodge Street and Lower Cabot Street, because that really backs up when the trains are coming through. So through Jerry's work, we were able to support that for him and get that into the transportation bond bill. We also worked with some other representatives, Representative Brad Hill from Topsfield, to look at the Route 97 needs some upgrading, and also worked with Mayor Kim Driscoll to work with Route 107 together with Representative Keenan.
So this is kind of like a conglomeration. It's a clearinghouse of various issues that affect local communities, so that you're really looking at all of the areas around the state that really need attention. Is that kind of...
That's correct. So each Senate district and representative, they were all asked, what are the capital needs that go beyond the city budgets? What exactly do you need to have done? A very big project is the South Rail. That would be able to get the trains down to the Cape. That's a very, very big project that a number of the senators and reps that, again, represent that area are looking to accomplish.
Because that's one big bugaboo about our transportation system. You can't start from the north and get down. You got to stop in the city somewhere and change stations. And
people really do expect to have good roads and safe bridges to travel on. And so the state has come up with this avenue. Now that is funded by the gas tax that was just increased last year. We do need to come up with a funding mechanism. And so that extra 3 cents per gallon will go into this transportation bond bill to finance all of these upgrades.
Wonderful. Now I want to say this correctly. You co-sponsored an act relative to juvenile life with parole. Now what exactly does that bill do, and can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So currently, a juvenile offender that is, for these are the very, very serious crimes of murder, are eligible for parole after 15 to 25 years after their conviction. This actually extended that to 35 years. The legislature really did feel that it was necessary, especially for family members that are of these loved ones that were killed, that there'd be a longer sentence with that. So we took a look at that, and of course you will know locally Colleen Ritzer, the teacher in Danvers who was murdered. That will actually affect in this case. It can't go back. This is going forward for, again, juvenile offenders who committed these really heinous crimes.
Now, recently, there have been in the news, there have been a lot of publicity and visibility of heroin overdose deaths, and I know that you are a chair of the Joint Committee on Mental Health and Substance Abuse.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the activity and what we're doing to kind of stem that.
Okay, so as everyone has been reading in the newspapers and seeing in the media, we are just having an explosion of opiate addiction and a lot of fatalities here in Massachusetts. The numbers have just increased exponentially in the last few years. So the Senate President, actually, Therese Murray, put together a special commission. It's the Committee on Section 35 Civil Commitments. And what that means is that when someone is addicted, if they're a danger to themselves or to others, the court can then civilly commit them into treatment. Now, detox is usually, what I've learned, is 5 to 7 days, and then these people will then go into other types of treatment. And what we're looking at through this special committee is how long is that treatment to be really effective? What we're hearing from the experts in the community, from the family members, and from these people themselves that have these terrible addictions, that they really do want to be in a residential locked treatment for upwards of a year. This is this opiate addiction is so serious. We're seeing a lot of young students in high school, college, who are starting on prescription medication, and then when they can't afford that because their prescription ran out, they're buying it off the streets. Then they are buying heroin, which is extremely inexpensive, very cheap right now, and very addicting and very dangerous. There are fatalities every single day. So we're taking a look at this, and we're going to be making some recommendations and putting having a budget component attached to it, because we need to get a handle on it.
Yeah. Very, very worthwhile effort. Now, let me change gears a little bit, Joan. What is the latest word from your office about Beverly, one of your communities?
So we have a new mayor, Mayor Mike Cahill, and Mayor Cahill invited me to his State of the City address last week, which I was happy to attend and honored to attend. And I think the world of Mayor Scanlon, I think he really left his mark on this community over the past 20 years. I look at the Cummings Center as a prime example of, I grew up here in Beverly, right down the street from the old shoe, and I didn't have the vision that Mayor Scanlon and a lot of people had, that could be redeveloped into what it is. It is left its mark here on Beverly. So now I look forward to working with Mayor Cahill. Again, he has, as a former state representative, he has a lot of experience up at the State House, and I appreciate that experience. And I'm really looking forward to working with him with regard to, for example, the Brimble Ave project,
Sure.
which just went through that vote just a couple of months ago, or back in February, and I actually sat down with both proponents and opponents to that project, and what I think what came out of even that vote didn't go away the way the opponents liked it would have. I think what came out of that, though, is that people are sitting down and talking to each other, and I think Mayor Cahill is the impetus behind that for his administration. And also now with the waterfront, that final decision has come down about the waterfront and how to then move forward with that, with removing that deep port designation, if that's the way the city goes. Again, sitting down and talking about it and working it out. And I look forward to working with Mayor Cahill and together again with Representative Paracella.
Yeah. And of course, what you bring to the table is you were on the city council and the chair or the president of the city council in Salem.
Yes.
So you bring that component, so you know the workings and how a city council works. So you can leverage that experience in working with Mike Cahill and the city council of Beverly.
City councils are very important. They really are a partner in government with mayors. So I'm very appreciative that I have that experience. I've met with all the council here in Beverly, a great group of people who really want to work hard to do what's right for Beverly. I look forward to working with them.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you do spend some time, part of your work week, in the cities of your constituency. Tell us about, do you have a district office? Do you have district office hours? Tell us how that works.
So, this seat never traditionally had a district office. So what I wanted to do was be in office for the first term and see if we needed to have a district office presence. So what I've been doing is going every Friday morning. I go to a different community, and it's alphabetical again. Beverly is the first Friday of the month, and then Danvers and Peabody, etc. And I meet constituents right in the city and town halls. And people do call the office, they make appointments, and then they come in and we talk about the different issues that may be on their mind. And so far that has worked. For some people that can't make that because of a work schedule, my message has always been, and it continues to be, I'll meet people anywhere. If you want me to come to your living room, I'll meet you at a coffee shop. I'm a regular at the Atomic Cafe right here in Beverly, and just so that it makes it more convenient. I don't want to have people come into Boston unless they really want to come into Boston to see me. I will be opening a district office in Salem next month. My husband and I are actually opening a law office. I will be of counsel, but I also can meet constituents there, and that announcement will be coming shortly.
Now, for those folks, your constituents who might say, gee, my problem isn't big enough or important enough to bother the state senator, what would you say? What kind of issues, why would people want to contact your office? You know,
it's interesting because when, before I came into the state government and before I got into local government, I felt the same way. I said, oh, they're too busy for me. You know, my issue isn't important enough to call the state senator. Every issue is important. So I want people, whether it's an issue you may be having locally, some things we may refer back to the city if it's a strictly local issue, but we're hearing from people about all types of issues, whether, you know, they be the Death with Dignity bill or medical marijuana is an issue that people are concerned about, either pro or con. So we want to hear from people. No issue is small enough that we don't want to hear from people. If they want to reach out to us, please call us. And there's several ways to get in touch with us. Phone call, email, Facebook, Twitter. We are completely into social media. I have to give a special shout out to my staff, who are amazing. They absolutely make me shine. I could not function without them, and I know the reps feel the same way about their staffs as well. So please reach out, and we look forward to hearing from people.
Well, why don't you? We'll post this in after. But tell us what is a phone? Give us a phone number and an email address.
Okay, so you can reach me at the State House office, which is 617-722-1410. And my email there is joan.lovely@masenate.gov.
Okay, so and we'll post that in afterwards. Now, what mechanism do you have, what communication mechanisms do you have to inform your district constituents about what's going on that's of interest to them in the state?
So people that contact the office, we always ask for an email address. We send out a monthly email update of what we've done in the office that month. And so far that's been very, very well received. People enjoy reading about what's going on in the State House and what we're accomplishing in the office. So anybody who would like to receive that email update, it's monthly at the beginning of the month. Please send us an email, with your obviously with your address. We will sign you right up and you'll receive that. And again, Facebook is a really great way. We try to be very visible on Facebook so that people can see what's going on.
Wonderful. Now, a lot of people wonder how do you balance constituent needs and the demands of high-level state politics? What sort of tricks or how do you do that?
Well, one thing about my training as a city councilor, I was a councilor for 15 years over in Salem, is constituent services is the top priority in my office. I have a constituent director who happens to be a Beverly resident, Anna Roy, who I just hired 2 months ago. She's terrific. And so I have one person that's absolutely dedicated to answering all constituent calls. And actually all of my staff are cross-trained in each other's jobs, just in case we have someone needs to also be answering constituent service calls. So, but that's an absolute priority for me. As far as balancing it, I make sure that I take care of the district. I do have those 7 committee assignments that do keep me very busy, but again, I have to thank my staff for directing me and redirecting me when I need to be, and I give them a lot of latitude because sometimes we feel like we're on roller skates, and so they do a great job.
Yeah. Now, Joan, you have been hailed as one of those people who has the ability to work for bipartisan cooperation, and of course a lot of people look down askance at Washington, D.C., where they see these two sides with, ideologically entrenched. How do you do that? How does one work for that bipartisan cooperation?
When I was campaigning and going door to door, and I knocked on 8,000 doors across the district, real grassroots, wanted to get into people's neighborhoods to introduce myself. One of the biggest complaint that I heard from people, it wasn't about state or local government. It was actually about Congress. What's going on in Congress? Why can't they get along? Why can't they agree? I heard it over and over and over. So when I went to the State House, going from city council, nonpartisan politics, going up to the State House, partisan politics. And I really didn't have that exposure until I got there, and then saw how some legislators vote strictly the party. But I'm a very moderate Democrat. I consider myself to be socially liberal and fiscally conservative. And there have been many times in the Senate when we are taking votes that I have supported a Republican amendment because I felt that, A, it was good for the district, it identified with what the district is looking for, and felt comfortable to be able to do that, to vote the idea, not because it came from a different party. And so, out of courtesy to leadership, I would let them know that, this is how my district would want me to vote. And so I'm supporting this Republican amendment, but to me, it's just the better idea.
Yeah. Now you are, how long into your term? You started in January
of 2013, and it's a 2-year term.
Two-year term.
Yes.
So what goals have you established for yourself to accomplish before the end of your term in office?
So, the first term in office is it's a pretty steep learning curve, although I had worked in the State House for former Representative Mike Ruane back in 2003 and 4. I still had a lot to learn. So that was my goal, was to become very familiarized with the rules, with the procedure, and also to really make myself very familiar with the district. I grew up here in Beverly. I know Beverly well. I now live in Salem. I know Salem well. Peabody, Danvers, and Topsfield didn't know those communities quite as well. So I've really made it a mission to get into all 5 communities, but more into communities I'm a little less familiar with, to make sure to introduce myself to their business community, their political community, and the residents, and to be able to get to know what are the needs and wants, and so what those other communities are looking for. So that's what I've been doing. And again, in addition to working on my 7 committees with mental health and substance abuse, no formal background, huge learning curve, straight up. I've learned so much. Very grateful for the opportunity to chair that committee.
Now, tell us a little bit more about your other committee work. What other committees are you on?
So I'm on the Tourism, Cultural Arts and Development Committee, Elections, which is a very important committee. We just did some work to allow people to register on the same day as and then I'm not sure when that's going to be put into place, but different things to do some election reform. I'm also on I didn't bring the list with me, the Community, Small Business and Community Development Committee. Am I up to 4 now?
well, let me ask you this: how, as a freshman senator, how are you appointed? Does the leadership appoint you? Do you put your hand up and say, "I'd like to be here and here"? How does that work?
So before I took office, but after the final election, I received a letter from the Senate President who said, please let me know what committees you would like to sit on. So I did. I don't think I got one of those committee assignments. I think she looked at that and said, okay, I'm going to put her on these. And so it's been, again, a big learning curve for me, but a terrific experience. I'm learning so much. And you know what? Really, you probably should sit on just about every committee. So I hope to be around for a while and to be able to accomplish that. Yeah.
Now, this is probably a question that you get asked a lot. You are in the seat held by Fred Berry, who was an institution, an icon in the state Senate. Do you feel that there's any extra pressure on you, or are people expecting more of you because of that? Tell us how that plays out.
Well, Senator Berry, obviously, he was the senator for the district for 30 years. He was the majority leader, I think, for 10 of those years. So very, very high profile. He left such an enormous amount of goodwill in that building. Everyone loves Fred. And so in some ways, he kind of made it easy for me because he left so much goodwill. But I am a freshman senator until I'm in my 2nd term. So, when Senator Berry was able to deliver buildings for, say, North Shore Community College or Salem State University, I'm not at that level yet, but I hope to be someday.
So, Senator Joan Lovely, thank you for being with us. And it looks like you have an incredibly busy schedule, both in the State House and visiting your constituents. I'm glad that you could make the time to sit here with us at BevCam and chat a little bit about your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Walt. I just want to say thank you to your viewers who are home in their living rooms watching this. I thank you for the opportunity to be able to bring an update from the State House, from the Senate, and I look forward to getting together again. And just thank you, too, for everything that you do for this community. BevCam is, I hear about it a lot, and I know what you do for, it's right here in Beverly High School. And I know that you have many students that come in and produce programs. I think it's just terrific. So thank you.
Well, thank you for those words of encouragement. Thank you for being so gracious. You have been watching the Beacon Hill Report with Senator Joan Lovely. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.